All right, 25 minutes before 10 o'clock. I'm going to try to remember something from when I was much younger to try to relate to what we're going to talk about, and then we'll take it from there. When I was much younger, my grandfather died, and I guess everybody has had that experience at one time or another. And it was very sad. You know, you're at the funeral home and you see people that you've known all your life, and young and old, and there in the casket is the person who you called Grandpa. And it was just sad. It was just nothing you could do about it. It was just, you know, grieving is grieving, and we all know it. Then one of my cousins, who was old enough to drive, said, why don't we go to the river? And we went to the river, and it almost seemed contrary. It almost seemed like wrong or even sacrilegious. Come on, we're supposed to still be sad, aren't we? And he said, no, we're going to go have fun. So we went to the river, and we did. We had a blast, and it was such a... almost, I don't want to say spiritual, it'll probably make it sound weird, but it was somehow uplifting, and wait, take away the somehow, it was uplifting. And so when you hear about people who have gone through grieving, and then you find out that there's certain techniques people use to get through grief, it's always interesting to hear about, because it's one of the toughest things in life, especially if you're trying to console somebody else. Wayne Hunter is here in the studio. He's a chaplain, and we're going to speak about Camp I Believe, and we'll tell you what that is in a second. Amanda Biggers is in Atlanta. Am I right? Is it Atlanta? Am I right?
Yes, I am.
There you are, Amanda. Okay. And she is the camp director and camp coordinator. And if I have anything wrong, they can correct it in just a second. And this sounds like an opportunity for children ages 7 to 14 to actually have a situation where maybe they can get through grief a little bit better than not having something like Camp I Believe. I love the name, by the way. It says here that it is run by clinical experts from Gentiva Hospice. So let's say good morning to Wayne Hunter in the studio and Amanda Biggers on the phone up in Atlanta. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you. Thank you for being on the phone with us, Amanda, and thank you for being in the studio with us, Wayne. Do I call you Pastor Hunter?
Just call me Wayne.
Wayne, but you are a pastor, right?
Yes, sir.
Chaplain is pastor?
Yes.
Well, thank you for coming in here. Who wants to explain what it is? How long ago did it get started? And what is it? I guess we'll start there. Where is it, first of all? Where is Camp I Believe? Where is it located?
Go ahead, Amanda.
Well, okay, Camp I Believe, it's actually our 4th year of doing a camp. The past 3 years, it's been called Camp Odyssey. And this year, our company has changed the names of all of our camps across the country to Camp I Believe, so that they are uniform.
Oh, okay.
The Ocala camp is actually located at the Ocala 4-H camp out in Altoona, Florida. It's a beautiful campsite with cabins, indoor plumbing, on a lake.
Uh-huh.
And camp this year is happening October 12th and 13th. And it is an overnight camp for kids. And I can actually take kids 7 through 17. I have a lot of older kids this year who have wanted to come to camp. So we're going to take through 17.
Okay. And the one thing they all have in common is that they're all grieving? Is that the commonality?
Yes.
Yes. The one thing that they have in common is that they've lost a grandparent, a parent, a sibling, an aunt, or an uncle, anyone in their family unit. Sometimes when we're children, our friends die, and that still would count as a significant loss. That would impact a child. And so then they could come to camp.
How do I ask this question? Are the children who go to the camp freshly grieving? In other words, the person just passed away, like within the last couple of weeks, or are they?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
We don't want them too fresh.
Okay.
Usually it's within a few months. They need a process. We do have this every year, but we have children that go back several years. Some of them are repeaters. They come back again. And we just want to meet their needs. The children grieve, number one, in a different way normally than adults do.
Right.
Many times the people in their life don't know how to deal with the grief.
Right.
And almost all of these children have a story to tell. They have something to relate that's special to them, and it's our job to help them, not to force them, but to just help and facilitate them to unlock and let their feelings out, because
when we visited your website, you have an outstanding questionnaire / insight into the personality of the child, what the circumstances were, and it's very thorough. I mean, at least the counselors know what direction the children are coming from and what personal need that they have to meet. It's an outstanding questionnaire.
Right, and Amanda and the staff does a great job. We try to find out as much as we can about the child that's coming in, and at the same time, our volunteers that all go through a background screening and all of the pre-work, they do a lot of information gathering about them, and we try to pair those children with an adult that share like interest in things, because they're literally going to be with them the entire time. They never leave the side of that facilitator.
The story I told about my own when my grandfather died when I was much younger, I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist, but if I were to try to analyze why that helped, I would think, well, maybe because it was a distraction. Maybe it was because of distraction and I was with people who were also going through the same thing. I'm guessing that you guys have it more figured out than that. but is it because it's a distraction? Are you doing fun things that sort of is a distraction?
We do, and it's not necessarily a distraction, but that's how children grieve. As adults, we're able to process and be in our grief for longer periods of time, but a child doesn't have the coping skills to do that. So you'll see children who they'll grieve in spurts, and that's how we set up camp, where we have our therapeutic groups that have about 10 children in each group with a trained clinician that's leading the therapeutic groups. And we'll meet a few times a day, but then in between that, we'll do fishing, we'll do archery, we'll go canoeing, have fun group games, do team building, that type of thing, eat a lot of good camp food, because kids need to have moments where they can be in their grief and process it and deal with what they need to. We teach a lot of coping skills and identifying the emotions that kids are having that a child who's 8 may not have had to identify yet. So this is a new emotion, and they may not be able to verbalize what it is they're feeling. So we work on that. But then we also, of course, we have a great time. We do s'mores, we play games,
right.
You know, that type of thing. So we do. Everyone says that camp is fun, and then yes, there's that little bit of the grief work. But most kids that I would say that would come to camp, and kids always want to come back, would say that they had a fun time at camp.
Let's talk about the religious part of this. If you have a child who in his Sunday school learns X, Y, and Z about what happens after death, and then another child, different religion, but still his friend, that's not what they teach me in my Sunday school. They teach me this. And now the two children are talking. My friend is dead, and he went to heaven. My friend didn't go to heaven. He didn't believe or whatever. How do you handle that? I mean, that's got to be horrible for. I mean, it's horrible enough as adults trying to figure it out. There's no way to understand it, really.
I don't know that we've ever had that exact scenario come up. This is not a religious camp, but I think Amanda will agree with me that we don't try to suppress anything that's religious. We do have chaplains that are there.
Right.
We're not driving that point. We're driving the point of them being able to understand the feelings that they're going through and the emotions, and how to cope, as Amanda said, to cope with them. If a child wants to enter into a religious or a philosophical type of discourse, and we're willing to do that. We're able to do that.
Right.
But that's not the main emphasis of this camp. That's, and what we would also do as a chaplain, one of the things that as chaplains we do is facilitate with the local churches. And if we had a child that was exploring those things or having difficulty with the religious part of that, I would probably contact that pastor of that church and let them know and update them, or at least we would talk to the family members that are there and let them know that there has been things that have come up that they may want to address with their local pastor.
How many children can you have at one time?
We are wanting
the most that I could take was 40. Generally, about 30 is my goal. The reason being is we want to be able to give each child the individualized attention that they need. We want there to be a sense of community at camp, because a lot of the times when a child loses a parent, let's say, they may be the only child in their elementary or middle school that's had that experience. So they're the only child that at their school that had their dad die. Well, then they get to come to camp and they meet other kids who have had that same experience, and they'll talk and they'll say, well, what did you do, 6 months afterwards, or what did you do after the funeral? And they'll build that bond. And then on Sunday, we actually have the parents come back. And before they pick up their children, we have a parent meeting where we do education with our parents so that they know what we've done with the kids, what activities that we did, ways to open up some conversations with their children using the activities that we did with them,
right.
So that they can have those conversations they may not have been able to have up to this point. And then, as Wayne was saying, if there were any red flags or any additional needs that popped while we were at camp, that's when we would give that referral information to the parent and say, we saw some things here at camp and we think this would benefit your child, whether it's they stay and, they work with us, or if we refer them to someone in the community, because we want to make sure that all of the children in Marion County or surrounding counties have the resources that they need.
Right.
Is there a fee for the children to attend, or do you have scholarships for them?
This is all paid
no,
for.
Ma'am.
This is all paid for.
Go ahead, Wayne.
This is all paid for through Gentiva and through our foundation.
Oh, wonderful.
And it's of no cost whatsoever to the children at all.
Mm-hmm.
Coincidentally, we just drove to Altoona yesterday. We Robin and I do music when we're not here, and we played as I guess it's an assisted living community. It's called Lakeview Terrace. So
Yes.
you're probably familiar with it if it's in Altoona. Do the counselors and everybody involved with the children all have briefings on each child? Like, do you know before you see them, look, this child lost a grandmother, this child had somebody who died by suicide? I mean, do you have all those little details?
Yes, we do.
Yes.
And in the application that Robin was referring to earlier that's online, it does ask how the person died, and then it asks if the child knows. For instance, a lot of suicides, the parents don't tell the child right away.
Right.
I've had kids come to camp where they just found out 3 weeks before camp that their parent killed themselves,
Oh,
or
my
that
goodness.
something had happened that wasn't what they had been told originally, because parents know, okay, well, let's talk about it now, and then they'll go to camp and they'll get support and they'll be able to work on that, and then come home and we can work on it some more. But we do want to know what the child knows, and then the clinician who's working with each group will get a binder just for them of all of the kids' information, so that they know what their kids are dealing with, how they're showing that they're still grieving when they're at home, and what the parents have to say about what's going on with the child.
The number, the 30 or 40 of children, or is there room right now for more? Do we need to get the word out so that anybody listening who's interested can go to the website or call you and sign them up? And is this just once a year?
It is once a year right now. I think I have about maybe 12 spots left. Usually,
Okay.
we start to get more referrals closer to camp, just with families being gone over the summer. So yes, I definitely have openings, and they can either go to the website, which is www.gentiva.com/hospice/camp, and then it will list the Altoona site, and you can pop up the application. I will take applications until October 9th.
Okay.
And then if anything after that, then we'll hold on to them for next year,
And
or we'll refer, to any other resources that are available.
Thank you. For the listeners who are not able to write down websites, go to WOCA.com. Robin made it real easy for you. It's already, that website that Amanda just gave is already on the WOCA website. Just go to this show, the AM Ocala Live show, and then click on the guest list. And you'll look for this date, Friday, September 20th, and you'll see Wayne and Amanda's names, as well as the websites, phone numbers, and everything else associated with this, including the 2 dates, by the way, which is October 12th and 13th. So walk us through the day. What is this like? The kids, do they arrive on bus? Do the kids come by a parent's car? Do they wave goodbye to their parents, or are the parents in another cottage somewhere on the property? What happens?
Go ahead, Amanda.
Okay, the parents do bring their children to camp. They register. If they have any medications, they'll check them in with our camp nurses. We do have multiple nurses on camp property all weekend. We haven't ever had an emergency, but just in case, we do have nurses there, also to dispense regular meds. So they'll check in their meds. They'll go. They'll see where their cabin is, meet some of the other kids in the cabin or the cabin buddies who will be in that cabin with them all weekend. And then the kids will go and they will start playing games and doing some icebreakers with the other kids that have arrived, and the parents will leave. Then after everyone's there, we all sit down together, talk about why we're there, talk about things like being respectful, the rules of camp, what things like confidentiality mean, and then we go break off into our small groups so that everybody can see the faces and form those bonds with the people that they'll spend the most time with that weekend. We break our groups down by age so that they're all sort of the same developmental stage in that group. And we also try to split up siblings so that they feel they have that safe space where they can say whatever it is that they need to say.
Gotcha, right.
And not worry about hurting, or a lot of times kids will try to protect their parents or their other siblings. So that way they have that space where they can do whatever they feel they need to do. Then, of course, it's about lunchtime, so we all go to lunch and have a great time. Food does wonderful things. Everyone's excited about food. And by that point, it feels like a community.
Yeah, right.
And then we break and we go do a fun activity. And then we'll go back into our small groups and work on telling our story as the first step. We want the kids to own their story, to be able to share it with the other campers so that they can identify with each other and recognize the similarities that they may have, as well as the differences, but be able to embrace that. After a small group, we'll go to another fun activity. Depending on the weather, it would be canoeing, fishing. We do a low ropes where it's team building so that kids can learn communication.
All in one day, wow.
Outside the box.
This is all in one day.
We are busy. We're busy.
Wow.
And then we'll go and we'll have dinner, and then we do a fun activity. I think this year we're going to do a talent show. And then we'll go to bonfire. And at bonfire, we do, of course, singing camp songs. We do s'mores because you can't go camping without s'mores.
Yeah.
And then we will do a small memorial service at the camp.
Oh, wow.
Fire.
Oh, wow.
And then we'll go to bed. And then we wake up again on Sunday, and we start with breakfast and move into our groups. We will have a drum circle this year where the kids each get an instrument, and we talk about and use the instruments to talk about how the instruments don't play themselves. We have to show up to play them. And the same sort of applies to life in general, and that we have to allow ourselves to pick up the instrument and to feel and to hear in order to be really living our lives. And so we talk about that and relate it to grief.
Wow. And they don't want to go home after that.
Oh, we have a good time. And everything can be related back to coping skills and, again, identifying emotions. And then parents come back on property. We meet with them after lunch and do the education meeting. And then we do a memorial service that we actually call the celebration of life, where the kids have the opportunity to share something about their loved one. The groups can go up and talk about things that they did together as a group. The parents are present, so they get to see this. And we do this because a lot of times funerals are very adult-driven. Kids may not really remember the funeral service. They may have been in shock still, or they may have wanted to engage and weren't able to. So we do that so they can do whatever it is that they want in memory of or to celebrate the person that has died in their life.
Do you have a mascot, a logo? Like sometimes hospice here in Marion County has a butterfly. Do you have anything like that?
Mm-hmm. We don't. The kids sort of get to take ownership. Each group gets to create their own name when they're at camp. So the Camp I Believe logo is universal across our camps that Gentiva puts on throughout the country. So that identifies us. And then the I Believe is an internal statement that Gentiva uses just to say that I believe that we can make a difference. I believe that I believe that we are helping. And in relation to camp, we say things like, I believe it's okay to have fun after a loss. I believe it's okay to cry. I believe it's okay to laugh.
Right.
And we talk to kids about that as well throughout the weekend.
Larry, if I could just add, it's pretty amazing to sit back and watch the transition in these children. When they come in, they're kind of to themselves. They don't know if they want to leave their parent. They are kind of to themselves. And the transition that takes place with these kids in a day and a half, when they leave, they don't want to leave. They're hugging, they're crying, they're holding on to each other because they found a group of people that they share something in common with. And what we also see them doing is exchanging email addresses and phone numbers. And now we've built a support system with these children that they can carry home. Sometimes these children find out that they're in the same schools. They're in the same neighborhood. They didn't know that they were sharing the same loss. They were sharing the same time of life that's been very difficult for them. And so it's a pretty amazing transition that we see in these children in just really 2 days.
For those listening that this applies to, first we have to say we're sorry for your loss, because if you're listening and you've got a child that you're thinking about signing up for Camp I Believe, then chances are you're grieving too. This is for the children ages, what was it again, 7 to 14?
7 to 17.
7 to 17, sorry. And it's a 2-day camp here in Marion County in Altoona, a nice little area Rob and I just went to yesterday. Wayne Hunter is here. He's one of the chaplains, and Amanda Bigger is up in Atlanta right now. And do you actually work at the site, at the campground?
I actually am the bereavement camp program manager for all of Gentiva, so I travel. I am from Ocala. I'm Ocala born and raised. And then I've worked at the Ocala site for the past 4 years, and I'm still there 2 days a week. So I'm on the road 3 days, but I get to be home the other 2.
My goodness, I'm guessing this is going to grow. I mean, I know it's being very effective, and I can imagine that when it ends, somebody's going to say, "Could we do it again next month?" And so that might be something you guys will have to figure out. The website is gentiva.com/hospice/camps, and again, Robin did put that website on the WOCA website. If you want to spare yourself having to write it down and just go to our site or call us, we'll be glad to repeat it over the phone. Well, thank you for coming in and sharing this with us.
If I could just add, Larry, just very quickly, we do support these children. This is a once-a-year thing, but we also offer 3 grief sessions through our monthly cycle. We have one the first Tuesday of the month, one the 3rd and 4th. And if they want to call our office or contact us, we can let us know. Ed Button is our bereavement coordinator.
Okay.
And we have 3 chaplains on staff there, and we will be more than happy to work and help in any way, because we actually follow our families for 13 months after a death, and that's because they go through all the major events of their life.
That's pretty impressive.
And we want them to know they have a support group, they have someone they can talk with, and it's very, very important that they learn there is life. Time doesn't change this. Time doesn't make it right. But time does offer them the opportunity to re-engage in life and re-engage in their life.
That's right. That is right. We all have our own. Thank you for what you're doing. I think it's awesome. And one last question. Do you have a need for volunteers?
We always have a need for volunteers.
Okay, so the second part to that, since you said yes to that, is, could a person who is not between the age of 7 and 17, who is grieving, let's say 32-year-old, would they actually benefit by volunteering? And could they? Would they be appropriate for this?
Yes, not for this camp. I think we've closed the volunteers for this camp. Is that not right, Amanda?
We do have. I've already done the volunteer training. All of our volunteers, we do 5 hours of training. However, I actually do have 3 folks that weren't able to make the past training, so I will be doing another one September 28th. So if there is anybody who really wants to come to camp and did want to volunteer, they would be welcome. They can always contact me at the office, which is the same number that Wayne provided for the bereavement group. So that would be something that, yes, I would say even after I think I've probably been in 4 years to almost 20 camps, and I'll have to say every single camp I take something out of it as well.
Wow.
And both in relation to losses of my own and then just life in general.
And what was your phone number again, Wayne, that they could call?
They can call us at 352-622-9331.
All right. Wayne Hunter, thank you for coming in. Amanda Biggers, come in next time.
Thank y'all for allowing us to have this opportunity.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you for being on the air. And Wayne, thank you. And call us again if you need that repeated over the phone, or just go to the website and most of the information is there. Thank you both. We'll take a little break and we'll be right back.
You're listening to WOCA News Talk 1370, Ocala's source for what's happening in today's hottest, up-to-date news and topics.
ABC News Now. I'm Karen Chase. 13 people were wounded in a hail of bullets at a Chicago park as participants and spectators at a late-night basketball game found themselves in the middle of an apparent gang gun battle. Police recently stepped up security to stem a rising tide of gun violence. If you're looking for a job, get on Target. Target's planning to hire 70,000 new workers for the holiday shopping season. That's about 20% fewer than last year. But Target says it's partly because full-timers wanted first dibs on extra hours. If you really want to know what to expect when